Chapter 2, You Belong to Me, Let Alone the Apartment. Located in the northeastern part of Xiangcheng, adjacent to the Binjin Bridge, there stood a vast villa complex, its tiles as dark as ink, solemn with a hint of European style. The towering foyer and grand entrance, the fountain with its clear blue water in the courtyard, and the stone carvings at the corners all exuded an atmosphere of grandeur and luxury. In this precious piece of land lies Xiangcheng's most prominent wealthy district. Within the luxurious and extravagant living room of the Lu residence, Yuan Ruoshu, the mother of Lu Yu, was furiously talking on the phone. "Chen Heng, you better make it clear to me. Who did that brat Lu Yu take his household registration and marry?" On the other end of the phone, Chen Heng, glancing at his boss through the rearview mirror, his trembling heart suppressing its shakiness, cleared his throat and replied, "Madam, perhaps it would be better for the boss to explain this to you personally. I'm driving right now, so I'll have to hang up, madam." Without waiting for Lu's mother to respond, Chen Heng hastily ended the call. Yuan Ruoshu in the old mansion looked at the disconnected phone, her anger escalating. Coincidentally, at this moment, Lu Yu's father, Lu Xiao, walked down the corner staircase, removed his glasses, rubbed his sore forehead, and asked his wife, "What's that brat up to again?" He was supposed to sign the online contract with the Lin Corporation today. It's a big deal, and he just runs off as he pleases. Lu Yu was the current leader of the Luocheng group. Something as significant as signing a contract today should have been handled by him, but when the meeting time arrived, he was nowhere to be found. He left a casual, got something to do, and left the entire room of shareholders waiting in the conference room. As the meeting time drew closer, the shareholders had to hastily invite the former chairman, who had already stepped down, to preside over the meeting. Lu Xiao had just managed to clean up the mess in the company, and now he was dragged into an online meeting by his own troublesome son for nearly 3 hours. Naturally, he was furious. And now, as soon as he got out of the meeting, he stormed downstairs in a fit of anger. Yuan Ruoshu threw her phone aside, her anger still unresolved. She sat on the genuine leather sofa and said angrily, "What else can he do? He took his household registration and got married." Lu Xiao had just taken a sip of tea and almost choked when he heard this. After catching his breath, he looked at his wife in astonishment. "Married? With whom? How would I know? That kid keeps his information tightly sealed." Upon hearing this, Lu Xiao abandoned his tea, picked up his phone, and used his connections to check the marriage registration information from the Civil Affairs Bureau today. Back to Lu Yu's side. After hanging up the phone, Chen Heng heard Lu Yu's deep voice resonate inside the car. "Get in touch with the Civil Affairs Bureau and keep the news of me and Suwan getting married a secret for now." Although Chen Heng didn't know the reason, he immediately sent the message to the bureau. Suwan Ci was a doctoral student at the peak of the medical field in a foreign university. Due to her publication of numerous authoritative papers and her resolution of several long-standing medical problems during her undergraduate and master's years, she was personally invited back to China by the director of the prestigious Hualin Hospital in Xiangcheng, offering a high salary. With so much happening these days, it was enough to overturn the smooth sailing life she had enjoyed for the past 20 years. After keeping the marriage certificate safe, she went to Hualin Hospital to complete her employment procedures. Having done all this, she tidied up her documents and returned to her small apartment. As soon as she opened the door, she saw a handsome and cold man sitting on the sofa. Ashtray by his hand was filled with cigarette butts, indicating that he had been waiting for a while. Seeing him, Suwan Ci's impassive face gained a touch of disgust. She opened the door wide, standing at the entrance without stepping inside. With a frigid expression, she pointed towards the outside. "Leave." Fu Jingzhou extinguished his cigarette, stood up from the sofa, took 2 steps towards the door, then stopped in his tracks. Seeing the undisguised disgust and rejection on the woman's face at the door, a fleeting obscure emotion passed through the man's eyes. He extended one hand towards her and placed the other in his pants pocket. His deep and intense gaze fixated on her like a hawk. His cold and overbearing lips parted slightly. "Xiao Xi, come here." The woman didn't move. She clenched her teeth, and her fingers hanging by her side clenched tightly. 2 seconds later, suppressing the surging hatred within her, she met his oppressive gaze. Word by word, she repeated herself once more. "Fu Jingzhou, this is my apartment. Don't dirty my place. Get out." The curve of the man's lips tightened. A glint of coldness emerged from the depths of his eyes. He took a couple of steps forward. Yuan Ruoshu pressed against the wall next to the door, refusing to look at him. The man walked to the door but didn't leave. Instead, he grabbed her wrist and forcibly pulled her into his arms. He closed the door behind him and pressed her against it. The smile that appeared at the corner of his lips was icy, and a hint of restrained anger lingered beneath. "Xiao Xi, you're becoming more and more disobedient." He leaned on the door behind her, gradually getting closer to her. Despite the warmth of the man's breath, Yuan Ruoshu felt as if she were being stared at by a venomous snake with its forked tongue. Fu Jingzhou's gaze gradually narrowed, his intense eyes locking onto hers. Seeing that she still turned her head away, not willing to look at him, a surge of dissatisfaction grew in his chest. "Xiao Xi, you belong to me, let alone this little apartment." He pinched her chin with his fingers, forcing her to look at him. Yuan Ruoshu's gaze turned colder and more disdainful. She slapped away the hand on her chin with a sharp sound, then pushed with both hands to free herself from his hold. Looking at Fu Jingzhou, who was a meter away, with a hint of anger on her face, Yuan Ruoshu spoke slowly but clearly. "Fu Jingzhou, I have never been yours. I'm not yours, and this apartment isn't either." She glanced at the cozy duplex apartment, then shifted her gaze back to the man across from her. "This apartment was bought with my own money, and it has nothing to do with you. And from now on, you better not step foot in my place again. Filthy." The last word caused Fu Jingzhou's pupils to contract abruptly. A dense pain surged within his chest. The previously docile and obedient girl now had erected numerous thorns, stabbing him mercilessly, causing his heart to ache more with each prick. The more his heart hurt, the calmer Fu Jingzhou's expression became. "Xiao Xi, I've tolerated enough from you these past 2 days. Even if you're throwing a tantrum, there should be limits. Xiao Xi, come here, my good girl." A mocking smile appeared on the woman's face. Suddenly, she looked up at him and said, "I'm married." Fu Jingzhou's expression froze for a moment, and even his breath paused briefly. But he quickly regained his composure. His years of experience in high positions had taught him to control his emotions perfectly. "Xiao Xi, you should have some restraint when making a scene with me. Within the upper echelons, who dares to marry a woman belonging to Fu Jingzhou?" Yuan Ruoshu had already known he wouldn't believe her. She took out a red booklet from her bag. Facing Fu Jingzhou's almost murderous gaze, she calmly said, "It's a coincidence. In this Xiangcheng, there's actually someone whom even Fu Jingzhou wouldn't dare to offend."